Hi everyone, this is Teresa from Base 10 Montessori, and today I want to do an introduction to Group 3 Math. Now, Group 3 Math has to do with the teens and tens boards and the bead chain lessons. Now, if you've been following my channel for a while, you know I've already done the bead chain lessons, so that part actually is already finished. So the next couple videos following this one is going to focus on teens and tens. And just a reminder, I also have playlists available. So if you want to see the full playlist for Group 3 Math, just go over to the playlist section, look for Group 3 Math, and then you'll be able to see all the videos, and I'm going to put them in order as I record them. But right now, all I have in there are the bead chain lessons, and then, of course, this video is going to go into that playlist as well. So with that being said, let's get started on talking about the teens, tens, and bead chains. So one of the important things to keep in mind when you're approaching Group 3 AMI math is that it parallels the decimal system. And what do I mean by that? So what I mean by that is when you start teaching the decimal system, which is Group 2 math, and I also have a playlist for that, so you can go and look there if you're curious about what Group 2 math looks like. So when you're introducing Group 2 math and you get to the formation of large numbers, you're going to start also introducing Group 3 math. So these lessons start to parallel each other, and you're going to give these lessons at the same time. So when it comes to introducing the first lessons in Group 3 Math, we're going to start with the teens. So the teen board lesson starts in combination with the formation of large numbers. The lesson with the teen numbers begins before you start the first addition lesson with the golden beads in the decimal system. For those of you who are looking for some structure and really want to know more about how do we present AMI Montessori math in the primary environment, and what order does everything go in, I have created a chart, and this chart is going to be available to you if you want to download it. Now, this is not going to be an absolute perfect order because some of you are going to be in different places. Some of you are going to need to switch up some things. So I'm just giving you this order as a guideline. But again, everything can change depending on your situation, depending on your context. So I don't want you to hold firmly to anything, but keep in mind that everything is flexible to meet the needs of your environment. So this is just a rough guideline for the Montessori math lessons in the primary environment. And if you have students that need these lessons before the age group that I've listed, that's fine. Or even after the age group that I've listed here. So again, don't hold to this exactly, but use it just as a guide for you. And I'm going to post that so that you have access to it. Let's talk about what lessons you're going to see in Group 3 Math. So we're going to start out with the teen board lessons. Then we're going to move on to the tens boards. Then we're going to go on to linear counting with the bead chains, skip counting with the bead chains, and then there's a bunch of following exercises that happen with these lessons. So there are ways to expand these lessons. So this is just the general overview of the Group 3 Math. Now I want to talk a little bit about introducing teen numbers. There is an important theory concept in the math album when it comes to AMI Montessori. And we always, always, always introduce quantity before symbol. That means we want to know that they understand how to count a quantity before we introduce the number symbol. So the first lesson when it comes to introducing teen numbers is going to be introducing the quantity. And we're going to do this through the 3-period lesson. And when I get to doing the teen videos, I'm going to show you what that looks like. So using the 3-period lesson, we're going to introduce the colored beads 1 through 9. And this is the first time that they have seen the colored beads. So this is very much going to be a new thing that they are doing because before this, they've only worked with the golden beads. After we have introduced the colored beads, and we do 3 at a time with the 3-period lesson, we're going to move on to introducing the 10 bar with the colored beads 1 through 9. That's going to be where we start introducing the idea of the teens. We're going to introduce the 10 bar with the red unit bead. And then we're going to do that with the 10 bar and 2. And so that's how we start introducing what 11 looks like and what 12 looks like. But again, this is just working with the beads. We're working with quantity. We have not introduced the number symbols yet. So we're not writing the number 12 yet. We're not asking them to look at the number 11. We're asking them to count the number 11. So again, this is all about quantity in the first lesson. The second lesson is going to be about introducing the symbol. And that's when we're going to start showing them what 11 looks like in a symbol. So we're going to start introducing those symbols separately. In lesson 1, we're doing just the quantity in isolation. Lesson 2, we're introducing the symbol in isolation. And then in lesson 3, we're going to combine both the quantity and the symbol. So we're bringing those two things together. And again, we do all of this through the 3-period lesson. I am going to demonstrate all of this in my next video. So if you're not visualizing this just quite yet, it's okay. We're just going over the theory in this video. I'm going to follow up with the actual presentation. Let's talk a little bit about introducing the tens board. When you go to introduce the tens board, this is going to move more quickly. This is going to be a faster lesson because they're more familiar with the material due to working with the decimal system in Group 2 math. So the children have already been working with the tens units and the symbols in the decimal system. So we're going to move very quickly from introducing quantity and symbol to combining both. So in lesson 1, part 1, we're going to introduce the 10 bar with the symbol. We're going to quickly go over counting the 10 bar and then go straight introducing the symbols on the board because they've already been working with this material in a different context with Group 2 math. Then we're going to have part 2 of lesson 1, which is introducing the units with the tens. Both quantity and symbols are combined without separate introductions. So we're going to move quickly through this. And this is where I also want to bring up a subject that I do get asked about very often. And people ask me, what about the exchange game? Now, if you don't know what the exchange game is, maybe fast forward through this. But if you are somebody who has experience with the Montessori golden beads and you've done the exchange game or you've seen the exchange game, this might be a place where you're asking yourself, well, what about that game? Where does that game fit into the decimal system and introducing teens and tens? And here is my answer for that. First of all, when I went to AMI training out in San Diego, we actually didn't have the exchange game in our albums. So I actually don't have an answer that fits into my album, but I have asked my friends and my coworkers about the exchange game because some of them do have that game in their album. I've worked with some people who are AMI trained that do have the exchange game and they use it. And you can do the exchange game if you would like with the teens and tens lessons. If I were to guess why my institute did not do this game, it may be because, first of all, every institute is different, or second of all, sometimes make changes to what's included in the Montessori curriculum, like the 100 board is now no longer considered part of AMI curriculum. And I'm wondering if the exchange game was taken out because it's very redundant. When you think about it, when you think about using the tens board, you are essentially doing the exchange game. And it is a more complicated version of the exchange game because you are also including symbols with it. However, if you want to do the exchange game and you want them simply to focus on quantity and not symbol, maybe they really need to focus on the quantity part and you're not ready to do the symbol part and maybe the tens boards are just too much for them, take the symbols out and go back to just doing the exchange game. Give them dice, give them unit beads, and give them 10 bars. And as soon as they get to 10, they have to exchange 10 units for a 10 bar. And so that's what I would say when it comes to including the exchange game. I think it's a fine game. I think it's okay to include in your classroom. However, it may not be something that you have to do for every child. The tens board might just be enough without having to include the exchange game. However, if you're finding that your students are really struggling with exchanging, then bring the exchange game in. But it's not something that I think you have to include if your students are moving along perfectly fine without any struggles. So keep in mind the exchange game can be a following exercise. It can be supplemental material, but it doesn't have to be part of your curriculum. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any more questions about the exchange game, just leave a comment down below and I'll do my best to answer it. And I'll ask around with some of my other teachers and maybe even try to email a few institutes and ask why some people have that in their albums and why some people don't. Let's talk a little bit about linear and skip counting, which, as I've said, I already have the videos for, so you can go and watch those right now. And lesson one is all about linear counting. We're going to go through the 100 chain and then go directly to the 1000 chain. So when it comes to lesson one with linear and skip counting, we're going to start with simply the linear counting. And we start that with the 100 chain. And once they are comfortable with the 100 chain, we switch automatically to the 1000 chain. And some of them will start switching over to counting by tens pretty quickly on their own naturally. A lot of them will have to count individually. And it takes up a lot of space and it can take a lot of time, but they really are going to get that linear counting down, and they're going to even start picking up on that counting by tens method. So that is lesson one with the bead chains. Lesson two, we start introducing skip counting. Now, skip counting, we're going to start with the 5 chain. And once they get comfortable with the short 5 chain, then we can start expanding out to the other chains. Before we end this video, I want to talk a little bit about materials, resources, and video playlists, because I want to make sure that you have a lot of options, because Montessori is expensive. And one of my goals for this channel is to make Montessori affordable so that everyone can access it. And I think that that is one of the problems that people have with Montessori, is that it's not accessible, it's not affordable, and that's part of the reason why people don't use it. So to start off with, I want to talk about how you can make your own materials. And I found a website called montessorifromtheheart.com. I'm going to put a link down to that below so you have access to look at it. And they had some really great ideas for making your own materials. Now, you can also check out other websites like Teachers Pay Teachers, right? I haven't looked on there exclusively. I'm not sure what's on there, but they might have some printouts that you can use. However, I would prefer Montessori Print Shop. They do a really great job of putting out downloadable files for you to use over and over again. And of course, everything takes a little bit of elbow grease, but the thing I like about Montessori Print Shop is that they include all the instructions. They also usually include Montessori theory. And while they are not strictly AMI based, they do have enough really good theory when they are explaining to you how to use the materials. So I think they are an excellent resource. And so I'm going to put the link down to anything I find from Montessori Print Shop that might help you with Group 3 Math. I'll put that link down in the comment section below so that you can have access to it. Now, that being said, sometimes you do need to buy materials. And while you might not actually want to buy something like the teens board or the tens board, because honestly, I'm going to be real honest with you, their use is very limited. So unless you're in a classroom where you're going to be using that over and over and over again, I would do DIY materials for your teens board and your tens board. But if I was to purchase anything, which is kind of pricey, I would purchase the bead chains. So if you're looking to buy bead chains, I bought my bead chains used. So I got mine off of Facebook Marketplace. However, you can go to outlets like Allison's Montessori is a more affordable outlet that I've used, and I've had a good experience with them. And of course, there's always places like Etsy and eBay that you can use, but just be very careful who you're buying from and just make sure that the quality of materials is what you want and that you actually get to see them in person before you give anybody money. So just be aware of what you're buying and do your due diligence when it comes to buying used materials. And lastly, I want to talk about playlists one more time. I want to show you what it looks like to go to the playlists and find the section for Group 3 Math. And I also want to show you the montessorifromtheheart.com website so you can see a little bit of what they have there. So with that being said, let me switch over to a different screen so you can see the playlists and see the montessorifromtheheart.com website where she goes over the teens board and the tens board, because I think that's a good resource as well. So here we are at montessorifromtheheart.com. I'm going to show you a little bit of what she has here and put the link down below. As you can see, she has some DIY ideas that I think are really good. And she even made her own beads. So if some of you are crafty enough and want to put in the time to make your own beads rather than order them, it's always possible with some pipe cleaners and some beads from the store. And if you scroll down, she does talk about it a little bit. I actually haven't read through what she says, so I can't tell you if it is complementary to what AMI talks about or if it's different. So I'm not 100% sure on the theory, but something I wanted to point out to you real quick, because I'm a Montessori nerd, is that she does appropriately call them the Sagan boards. And this is referring to Sagan, who was the person who developed the boards originally, and then Montessori used these boards after him. So this goes back to uh, going back to our Montessori history of where she started getting some of her ideas from. And it's always a fun topic to explore. When it comes to the Montessori history, we talk about Itard and Sagan being very influential with Montessori, and they actually created the 3 period lessons and the Sagan boards and a lot of things that Montessori adapted for her environment. So I do like the fact that she calls them the Sagan boards. So this website is here for you if you want to look at some DIY versions of these boards. So I think this is a good resource right here. But also I want to make sure that you understand how to get to my playlist so that you can play through all of the series. And as you can see, I have a lot of playlists. And one of my newer playlists that I'm going to start working on is going to be the bell lessons. We're going to do some music theory, Montessori music theory. And let's see here. We've got group 1 math, which I'm going to be honest, I haven't done much with it yet because people don't really demand a whole lot on group 1 math. There's a lot of things that they've already done at home that they're not really that interested in that, but I will eventually go back and fill out the group 1 math lessons. And group 2 math is right here. That's going to be the decimal system. So if you didn't understand what I was talking about with the decimal system, that's right here in group 2 math. Those are going to be there for you if you're interested in what lessons come before the teens and tens. And then if you go right here, you're going to see group 3 math, teens, tens, and linear and skip counting. So in order to view the whole playlist, make sure to click on view full playlist right there. And as you can see, there's not much in group 3 math at the moment. The only thing that's there are the bead chain lessons. And so I went through those bead chain lessons pretty quickly in a very limited amount of space, which was really difficult to try and show the 1000 chain in just a little bit of space. So I did the best that I could. And someday, if I have a better way of filming it, I'll remake those videos. However, this is the only one I have in group 3 math right now. I'm going to put this introduction video into group 3 math, and then I'm going to put the teen lessons and then the tens board lessons. Those are going to go in there as well, and that will complete group 3 math. With that being said, that is all I have today. That's all I have for this video. I wanted to talk a little bit about what the lessons are for this, what it looks like, how many lessons there are, and of course, we'll talk more in depth in each individual video. This is just an overview of what to expect. With that being said, don't forget to like this video, share it with somebody, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.